Thank you for joining us today at Beyond the Assault. This podcast discusses sexual assault, domestic violence, and trauma, which may be triggering for some listeners. We are survivors sharing personal experiences and are not licensed professionals. Please seek qualified support if needed and take care while listening. Thank you again for joining us today.
There's a life waiting past the pain, a voice that's yours to reclaim. This is beyond the assault.
Welcome to Beyond the Assault. We are back once again, and today we have Miss X. Hello, Miss X.
Hi, how are you?
How you doing today?
I am well.
How you doing, Miss Denise in the building?
Hey, I'm doing great. Glad to be with y'all today.
Once again, we have Miss S because this is going to be one of those episodes where you have to listen, just listen to what's going on and how it's going on and the pattern that it's going on in and out. This I just wanted to say something kind of out and kind of wild. But Miss S, normally what I do is we have you introduce yourself because nobody can do it just like you can do it. So just let us know a little brief about you and we can get started.
So my name is Ms. S. I am almost 58 years old. I was raised in a very small town, Appalachian, where everyone knew everyone. I was a little bit shy when I was coming up. And from what being in Christendom now, I understand that, when you have a call on your life, that the enemy, the first thing that he tries to do is to take your voice. And my voice was taken through sexual abuse when I was starting around 8 o'clock, starting around 8 years old to the age of 15. At the age of 15, I ran away from home. And through counseling, one of the things that I realized early on is that when I left at 15, no one asked why. And I never thought about that until I went to counseling, that nobody really knew why and nobody really asked the why behind me leaving. Fast forward to my future, I was, because I was kind of taught to be quiet and be silent, I just kind of let people do and say whatever they wanted to do or say to me as I was growing up into my adulthood. Didn't have a voice then. If someone hurt me, I was silenced. If someone did me wrong, I was silenced. If a job did me wrong, whatever capacity I was in, people were allowed to treat me the way that they felt that they needed to treat me, because I had no voice and I had no one to stand up for me. And the interesting thing about child abuse is that every day you're living out that situation, because I vaguely remember that person coming into my room every single morning, and I would shut my eyes because I knew what was going to happen in that moment. And that's kind of how I lived my life. I shut my eyes and I just kind of glided through life, never saying anything about what anybody had done to me, until one day I got my voice back. I prayed and I asked the Lord to let me see me the way that he sees me. And that was like a revival in my personal life. And from that point on, I began to gain some strength. I began to have a voice. I began to see myself as being important. I began to realize that what had happened to me wasn't my fault, because the perpetrator at that time was a stepfather of mine. There were a couple of cousins and an uncle. So it just wasn't one violation. It was multiple violations. And when I was growing up, everybody used to call me pretty. And as I think about that, as I was growing up, I was thinking, well, you know what? Maybe it's because I'm pretty that all of these things happen to me. So what I started to try to do was dress very unappealing or do things to make myself not as be appealing. It's just interesting, all the cycles that you go through in life, just kind of revisiting and reliving, as I said earlier, each and every day, that violation. Although you're out of the situation, you're still living the situation each and every day. So I met people who kind of encouraged me, who kind of gave me some strength. And as I think about it now, I had become a hidden figure. And I had some people bring me out of hiding. And so as I began my career, I knew that I started off in my life wanting to be an attorney, because that was my way of helping people. And since I didn't get to do that, I became married. I had a child, and my schedule did not afford me the time to go to law school. So I figured, what's the best way to help someone than to get in human resource? So that's where I've been for the last 30 years. I didn't get my degree right out of high school. I waited to get my first degree when I was 45 years old. Fast forward to 50, I decided it was time to get my bachelor's degree. And now, almost 60, I'm working on my master's degree. So
wow.
That's the short version.
Wow. Well, you just jumped right in.
Huh?
I said, you just jumped right in.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's amazing when you have your own personal awakening and you start realizing, for so many years I had told myself that I couldn't do things because I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't this enough, and I wasn't that enough. And it was no evidence of that voice manifested in my life. I just believed those things. But once what I started to do was to counter everything that the enemy was saying about me. If he said I wasn't smart, I showed him how smart I was. If you tell me that I couldn't reach a senior level position in corporate America, I showed him that I can do that. And I do think that's one of the symptoms of people that have gone through some similar situation as me. You try to excel in life because you want people to see you, and you want people to see you as a good person doing good things. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but you can do good things for the wrong reasons. And those were, yeah.
Now, I wanted to go back to, you said you were at 15. This is something that happened at 15 years old. You were becoming, I guess you were getting in this development where people were admiring you at that time, good and bad. Just thinking about the development at that time, do you feel that people in general, or just the male embodiment of, do you feel like it was an admiration thing, or was it more on the lust side, even at 15 years old?
Yeah, I did because I was pretty fully developed as a 15-year-old, if you know what I mean. I had, physically, I looked like a woman on the outside. Very long hair, body well developed. So it may have been a combination of admiration and lust.
I can see that how, because males in general, they always are looking in general, but the approach on to someone that's 15, that's very, especially if they're a person that is older. Were you already taught at that age, by your folks, the birds and the bees, or did you have to learn in a different area of life?
I'll say it this way. I'm almost 60 years old, and my mother has never told me about my cycle. So that's the way it was when I was growing up in the 60s. Everything was so secretive. You can't talk about these things. So you kind of learn as you go. You don't really, in my case, I didn't really have a support system. So, learning those types of things on your own can be pretty scary, especially, you're a young woman. You go to the restroom one day and things are happening to your body and you don't have an explanation for it. And it's hard when you have to go through those kind of things by yourself.
I understand that. Is this why it was so important for you to excel at your education? Because of that reason? Because you felt like you didn't have support? Because being a human resources for, you know, at the age where you were at and doing it for 31 years is a career based deal. Like, did you already have that good drive to get up and go, or you wanted to look at human resources like I can help people?
I looked at it like I can help people, but one of the things, well, I've learned over the course of my life is that if you don't get the healing that you need to get, you'll become a support system, but you'll become a support system for all the wrong people. Because what lack of healing does is it draws. It's like a magnet that those unhealed places in your life become a magnet, and you draw all the wrong people to you, and you become a support system to all the wrong people. And what I mean is, you find yourself being the nurturer, being all those things that you admired or you wish you should have had growing up. You're giving all of that to people. And I don't know if I don't want to use the word not deserving, because everybody deserves to be loved and cared. It was just the wrong people that I nurtured and took care of. And to this day, I have to really use wisdom and manage caring about people the right way and doing it for the right reason. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yeah, you answered it. No, I was because I wanted to see what I was looking for in the setting of coming from a career standpoint is the drive behind what you want to do as a career person. Because you were saying something about law and you are talking about helping people with resources. And, in life, we all see, community as a resource for each other to grow. In you know, and so getting the right resources from the right people is a good stepping stone or standing point, so to help people grow in a different direction of their careers. I was trying to find the detail between the development of what happened to you at 15 to the strength that you have today to be on platform now to talk about what you're talking about. So I just wanted to let you know that what I admire what you're doing now, be able to talk about what you're talking about now, and be able to give us the blueprint of what's going on now. Like, hey, even at 15-year old, as a developing 15-year old, it didn't stop me from trying to do what I wanted to do in career. Uh, and even though you're at that point, you're at that limit of where you are, you're still able to talk about it, and it hasn't stopped you. Um, it hasn't stopped you from telling your story. Denise, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's funny to sit here quietly and just listen to you tell your story because there are parts of your story that are so eerily familiar to me. Um, like you, I was at a very young, impressionable age when I was raped by a couple of gentlemen in our neighborhood. And, I told my parents, of course, they wanted to know why I was home, why I was hurt, what was going on. So I told them, but it wasn't anything that was discussed after that moment. It was something that was kept quiet, no one else knew. And it wasn't until recently that I started speaking out. And I even went through a period of time in my life where I questioned, like, is this really what happened? Was it my fault? Was there something that I did that caused this to happen? Because that had been put on me as well. Had I not been where I was, had I not been doing what I was doing, it wouldn't have occurred. Um, so I kept that on me for a long time. And to listen to you and the strength that you had to go through your healing journey completely alone, and at this point in your life, still not having really spoken out to families, still not really let them know what happened all those years ago. I mean, that is just an incredible testament to strength, an incredible testament to your faith, that you were able to get through that and live a successful life. I understand the perfectionism because I went to that same place. I couldn't let them see my flaws. I couldn't let them see what was wrong with me. I had to be perfect in everything that I do. And that was why I didn't speak out for a long time because I was terrified of, okay, well, who's going to walk away from me if they know this awful thing about me? And I wouldn't speak up. But I'm just curious, like, in not having that support system as a child, and I experienced the same thing, it took me nearly 40 years to get to the point where I could speak out, I could seek help, I could really start that healing journey and understand what I needed to do, and start seeing the things in my life that changed as a result of what happened, because in my mind it was just normal. It was what every kid was experiencing, but it wasn't. So I'm just curious to know how that affected your childhood, how it affected your development, how it affected your way of thinking.
It affected my childhood from a standpoint of um, I did a lot of things for attention, you know, um, because I, as you mentioned earlier, and as I mentioned earlier, I never, I have never spoken about what happened to me and my family. And, even at the age of 15, I have a story that happened that really traumatized me a little bit. I found out in the course of all of those interactions with my family members that I was pregnant. And one day, I was in a lot of pain, not knowing anything about my body or anything. I was in a lot of pain. And my mother took me to the hospital. And I remember that day so clearly because it was a holiday. We were out on school break. And when she took me to the hospital, the doctor asked me to go in and give a urine specimen. When I went in to give that urine specimen, there were balls of things that came out of my body that I felt like was a relief. And at that point, nobody even knew that I was pregnant because I think that, you know, I had carried at that point in time. And what that did to me, because I was a cheerleader and I was doing all of these things, I felt like God was going to punish me because I was the reason that I didn't carry that baby the full term. And in my mind, through from that point to an adult, it was like I constantly did things to be seen, whether it was excelling on a test, whether it was being a perfectionist at work, whether everybody saw that I was living well, everything, regardless of what was going on the inside, the outside had to look real pretty. And I think that's what I did a good job of, you know, from being small to being an adult. And at some point in my life, it just became exhausting. And it ruined a lot of relationships. I haven't had very good relationships in my life because the impact of what happened to me would never allow me to be close to anyone. And the funny thing about it is I've been married twice, and I've never even I can tell you to this day I can say that I've never been in love with somebody. I just wanted a good story. That's what I wanted my whole life to be. Is a story that I didn't live out in my childhood, but as an adult, everybody could see that story that I had imagined in my mind.
Right. That image of perfection that we create. Yes, I understand
Mhm.
that. So I find it interesting. I was talking with Sean earlier um, about the patterns that happen within families, and it wasn't until I started speaking up about what happened to me that I learned that there were multiple other family members within my family that had
Mhm.
experienced the same thing in childhood. And I'm just curious. I know you said yours was the result of assault by family. Do you know of any other family members in your family that experienced something from those same people or someone else in the family?
I tell you what, during the era that I was growing up, I tell you, they could have never had like Facebook or Instagram because everybody was so secretive about everything. You couldn't hear a pin drop when it came to what happened inside those homes. So the answer to your question is not that I know of.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. Hopefully it didn't. It's definitely
Yeah.
not something that I would ever wish on anyone or ever want anyone to experience. But the fact of the matter is, it is a reality, and it's a shocking number of women, not just women, men, but the number of women that are sexually assaulted before the age of 18 is just astounding to me. And when I went to counseling, I found a Christian trauma counselor who really understood what I was talking about. And when she started rattling off statistics to me, which I'm not even going to put it out there because I don't want to get it completely wrong, but it just, I mean, it shocked me and it just broke my heart that there's so many people that are experiencing this and not speaking out, not saying anything. And it has allowed it for all these years to continue. And that was what ignited that piece in me to start speaking out, start telling people about what happened. Because I think there's so many people who are out there broken and feeling alone, and I want them to know that there's people out here who understand what you've been through. There's people out here who see the real you. And I appreciate your willingness to come on and talk to us because that's you standing up saying, hey, you're not alone. I see you. I know what happened to you. I know what you've been through, but there's a light on the other side. Um, can you tell us a little bit about I know you were talking about there was that moment when the switch kind of flipped and you began your healing journey, but can you kind of tell us what that looked like when you started off?
It looked like pain. Um, I remember the first time talking about my story to a counselor, and I only went at that point in time, maybe when I was about 25, 26, because I think what triggers the conversation is pain. You're in pain,
Mhm.
but pain triggers the conversation even more. And at that time, I believe I was going through a divorce, and I went through two sessions, and I was like, I can't really do this because once again, in my mind, somebody sees me weak, and that's not the way that I'm supposed to be seen. I'm supposed to be seen as strong, and nobody will ever see me weak again. It's the story that I was telling myself in my mind. Um, but as life progressed, and there were other things that happened, um, I found a counselor who created a safe place for me, because I think that the one thing, especially for women that have gone through molestation, is to find somebody safe,
Yes.
somebody safe to tell your story to, and they're not going to repeat it, or somebody that's going to listen to you and say, I see you, I hear you, and it wasn't your fault. And this counselor took me to a level of healing that I never had gone before. And the one thing that she taught me more than anything, well, the first thing that she taught me, before you can go through anything, you have to learn that self love. Because self love, because you don't have it, right? You don't
Mhm.
have that self. And I began to learn what self love was all about, loving myself, um, raising the expectation on how people should treat me. Those all became a part of the healing journey. Learning not to lie about myself. If someone hurt me, I would be like, "Oh, that's okay," and I would move right along. But I learned to say, "That's not okay," and
Yes.
this is how I feel. So that healing journey taught me how to start talking about my feeling and not looking as feelings as being weak, but looking at it as being a strength when you can talk about it and you can make people accountable in your life.
Yes.
And once I learned that self love, it was it was on from there, because that was like the secret sauce for me.
Yeah, and I love hearing you say realizing that the weakness was really strength, because I think that was a big thing for me too. And I actually wrote a book a few years back called Finding Beauty in Brokenness. Um,
Mhm.
and for me, it was realizing that vulnerability is very different from weakness. It
Mm.
took me a long time to learn that being vulnerable and showing people the real me is not me being weak. That's actually my strength. Letting people in to see who I am despite what I've been through is my strength. Um, so that was a big eye-opening moment for me, and it was great to hear you say that and almost validate like what I've been thinking since that experience that I had, because I did see sharing things that weren't perfect in my life as weakness, but in reality it was what brought me to where I am and into the purpose that God had for me. And I see you walking that same path and hear you saying the same things. And it's just a beautiful thing to be able to share that with somebody and have someone truly understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And one of the things that I found that along, I just want to mention this because I feel compelled to talk about it, is isolation,
Mm.
because of what has happened to you. It's almost like you want to isolate yourself from the world, because that's the safe place for me. I may not be safe with anybody, but I'm safe with myself. And
Yes.
so isolation was a big part of my story. I would travel with girlfriends of mine, friends of mine, and everybody would be so happy and so joyous. And that's the other thing. I felt like I didn't give myself permission to be happy. It's like, okay, I'm just going to go through life in subpar happiness, if that's the word.
Hmm.
But I was never truly happy. I would isolate myself on these trips until I began to circle myself. And it's almost like healing, you have to take yourself on a prayer journey too. Because there's some things that you need in your life that you don't really need that you don't think you need in your life. And one of those is a person that will let you fail, a person that will let you be authentically who you are, whether it's good or bad, and they still love you. So finding the type of friends in my life was it helped a whole lot in my healing journey, and it kind of brought me out of isolation.
There you go. There you go. Like what would it take? What would it take? What would it take to show them how to love you and what to listen for? Um, being an because I know it takes patience. I know it takes an open-minded person to do so. Um, so what would it take to talk to someone like yourself that's been through this situation?
I'm going to be very honest with you. People, including myself, that have gone through these types of situations are the most loving people because you tend to give out what you want. And love was what I want, and I overexerted myself in love. But what I would tell a man would be to just create a safe place for me. Um, it's almost like, I guess I want to say during that healing journey, um, I was very immature in those relationships. And only because I think when you go through traumatic situation, what I've learned in counseling is that you stay stuck in time. So although I was a grown woman, those men were in love with the child because my mind hadn't developed to the place of progression. So, but the woman I am today, um, it would be love. Love covers a multitude of sin. Love, I mean, just love the person. Love a person like me and let it be a genuine type of love. And you can only get your direction on how to love me, not even for me, because sometimes, to be quite honest, I don't even know. But God can show you how to love because He's definitely given me friends like that in my life where God has has taught them how to love me, even if there were days I didn't want to be bothered with them for no reason, or I was mean to them for no reason, or angry for no reason. They loved me through all of that. And that's what I mean when I say it's tough to love someone like me. And I don't want to act as though I'm an alien or anything like that by making that statement
Right.
because it's not the same as loving somebody that hasn't gone through a traumatic situation like that. But love is the answer, and it's the answer to way more problems than it is. But definitely in my situation, that genuine um, God type of love, being directed by God, and allowing Him to show you how to love me. That's the long answer short, I guess.
No, that's real. That's real because guys, I can say this. Uh, guys out there, you know, we encounter, people that have been through things and in general, and sometimes when you don't realize that you don't understand the assault part or you don't understand the domestic part or whatever someone's been through, you don't see the signs because you're just living. And when you do, you want to know how to nurture it, especially if you are a guy that cares. So, I think that's a perfect answer to that question because as a guy, coming from the male perspective, because I know we have both type of listeners. We have women listeners, we have males, we have young people, we have older people, or seniors. I'm saying seasoned people. So we have all those types of people listening in, and we just want to be able to show that blueprint of, hey, if you encounter someone that's been through a situation like this, just know how to love and show their agape love in that sense. And if we don't know what it is, then just learn how to, and read into it.
And I hate that we're running short on time. I would love to have you back to talk to you again. I feel like there's so much more for us to unfold and open up and put out to people. If you are willing, we would love to have you back on again and continue this conversation.
Absolutely. I absolutely would love it.
Yes, ma'am.
Because this is also a part of the healing journey, right? Talking about it.
Yes.
And for a lot of freedom for me comes from seeing people set free. I get to talk, in the past, I've spoken to a lot of women in churches, and I think that's an area that we, if you want to, we can tap into at another time, because you think that a lot of this is happening in these women around the world, but there are women stacked in the church that has not even tapped into the healing. They it's still a secret to them, to people. It's still a secret that's being kept, especially by those women in churches who believe that that they need to conceal this kind of stuff, and that all they need to do is forgive the person and move on, and not address the healing that they need themselves.
Yes, absolutely agree.
Well, I know this. At the end of our episode, we're definitely going to have resources at the end of any video, and we'll continue to do so with our programming. Is there? I know you have something that's in the works. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I'm writing in the process of writing a book, and the title of the book is if I could just say something, and if I could just had a few minutes to talk about the first sentence in my book. The words were, my mother said that out of 5 children, I cried the most. Maybe my tears were prophetic of my life to come. And that's how I started the book.
I like it. I like it. Very, very, very good. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, Denise, you got anything to say?
Yeah, I enjoyed the conversation with you today. Like I said, I'm going to be happy to talk to you further and open up more into your journey and how you got to this place of healing, even though that journey is continuous. I see it as the infinity symbol. It kind of never ends. It just keeps going. But in the meantime, if anyone listening wants to reach out to us, please do so. You can find us on our YouTube page at Beyond the Assault Podcasts. You can also email us at beyondtheassault@gmail.com.
And we out.
We are out. Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you again for tuning in with us today. Always remember, your story did not end with your trauma. The pain was real, but healing is possible. Never give up. This journey is uniquely yours. Please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Drop us a comment and let us know where you're tuning in from. Until next time.
Soul.